Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? It's your man, 100 Grand Ross for The Rock Never Stops. These Pistons, man, hell of a win against the Knicks, but hell of a couple of wins against the Cavs and the Knicks on back to back nights. That is no easy feat. There's no easy feat. And the way this team has shown up, uh, we have to really talk about what it means in terms of implications for the NBA season. And not just the NBA season in terms of like wins and losses or the playoffs, but I mean, like, coming out of the East, coming out of the East, the ways in which we are figuring out how to win, the ways in which we are figuring out how to dominate, how to take over games, how to take control of big games against the best teams, uh, speaks to a level of not just talent, not just culture, but also, man, we have something special. We have something special. Um, and I want to talk about it in this video. But before I do, as always, if you could do me a favor, smash the like button for me. Remember, it's a small thing for you, but a big thing for the channel. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And if you haven't already, consider becoming a member in 2026. It's like, why not? You know what I mean? You're already here. You might as well just dive all the way into the community because it really helps out with the channel and the ongoing production of this channel. Let me just say this. 3-point shooting showed up for us tonight. And when we can hit threes, it absolutely magnifies everything else that we do in terms of Detroit culture, Detroit basketball, our defense, our energy, our intensity. All these different things are elevated when we can knock down threes. So Duncan Robinson knocking down an early three, Isaiah Stewart knocking down an early three, Cade Cunningham knocking down an early three set a tone. It set a tone. It gave us that offensive leg up that allowed us to lean on our defense, which is really our backbone. It's really how we've gotten to where we have this far this season, being the number one seeded team in the Eastern Conference. When I look at where this team is going, it's hard to not start talking about championships. It's hard because the reality is, I think we look at this team and we have to ask ourselves, are we not a contender this year? Are are we not? Let's be honest. There is no team in the Eastern Conference, especially after these two recent wins, that we can say are definitively better than the Detroit Pistons. And even the teams that we might say are pretty good, competitive with us, and this was a competitive game. Make no mistake about that. The first half, we were nip and tuck. It was back and forth. We were able to maintain the lead, but the Knicks were right there in striking distance. And the reality is, if we don't have a hot offensive shooting in that first half, there's a good chance we're competing from behind coming out of the first half. And I'm not going to say that that was a fluke and that we shouldn't have been able to knock down those threes. I'm just saying that the first half of the season, we haven't been a great 3-point shooting team. So this game was a lot closer than what it may have looked like by the end. If this is going to become our normal, and I actually think it will, I've been saying for a while, our 3-point shooting is going to level out. It's going to average up, right? Guys are better 3-point shooters than what they've had an opportunity to show. And not just an opportunity to show, but sometimes it's just getting accustomed to playing with certain teammates, where you're going to find your shots, continuity, chemistry, building the consistency to know, okay, this is where I need to prepare myself to get these specific types of shots. Outside of Duncan Robinson and maybe Cade Cunningham, I think a lot of these guys have been um, kind of moved around a lot in terms of their role within the rotation, standing when they're going to get in the game, um, how they're growing their game. And so there's a lot of fluctuation. There's a lot of figuring out that's been taking place. And I think that has contributed largely to the lack of 3-point shooting efficiency. But all that is to say is I think that's going to continue to tick up we're going to continue to have more games than not where we shoot really well from the 3-point line. And that's gonna open up so much more. Now, there's so much more to talk about in this video in terms of how this team is doing, what they showed us last night, their physicality, their defense. They were absolutely swarming. There are some roster rotation things that we are seeing that are becoming glaringly apparent. How important Javante Green is to us, how effective Paul Reed is for us. There are things that we have to talk about because it is going to affect the rest of the roster. It just is. But before I dive into the rest of it, let me give a salute to the chat. Appreciate everyone who's coming through. We got Donovan. What's good? Salute, brother. William Hers guy, yo, one of my members. Salute, salute, salute. It's wonderful to see you in here. What a night for the boys. Yes, sir. Had to cop the membership after this. Last. Yeah, yeah. Yo, hey, real talk. I appreciate that. Junior Getter, what up, though? Amazing game. Ghost Keeper, what's good? What's good? One of the members, Big At, yeah, one of the original OG members. Yo, what's good? What up? What a great breakdown to what I appreciate it. The Knicks see that our team is different from last year. Yo, not just the Knicks know what time it is. You know what I mean? Some of y'all know what that saying means, what time it is. Like when something changes, something is switched up, and you finally see it and you peep it and you're like, oh, I see what you're talking about. I see what you're talking about. Got your shit together. Okay. Okay. I see what you're doing out here. Almost like when your nephew, you've been playing ball for a while. You used to whoop him up in the yard and all this stuff, take him to court, you know what I'm saying? Maybe let him play with you, run on your squad. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see come down the middle and just bang on somebody. You're like, where did that come from? And your little nephew ain't so little no more. He ain't 13, 14. He out here 16, 17. He out here banging on somebody. You're like, oh, hey, okay, I see you. I see you. That's what type of time the Knicks are looking at the Detroit Pistons. They see what time it is. The Pistons aren't just here. They're a problem, bro. They're a problem. And I have to really discuss this because they are by no means a finished product. They are by no means this refined, uh, fine-tuned, locked in, I would say offensively more than anything. But even just ball skill, in a lot of ways, they're not locked in still. But they're by no means a finished product. By no means. And yet, crazy enough, they're the number one seed in the East. I want to double check. They might have the best record in the NBA right now because OKC just keeps on losing. Everybody thought they were going to get that Golden State Warriors record, and then it was like, nah, we cool. It was like, I'm all right. Detroit is 27-9. Oklahoma City is still 30-7. Okay. OKC 30-7. We have the second best record in the NBA. At some point, the turnovers, lack of 3-point shooting, uh, the miscues, the lack of continuity offensively, lack of execution, some of the defensive transition stuff. At some point, it almost doesn't matter anymore, does it? Because we're doing something else that's far greater than that. Far greater. Not just well, right? We aren't just a good defense. We're one of the best defenses in the NBA. Not because we're the best at communicating or the best at even getting back on defense or rotating, even though we did a whole lot better this game. And I want to talk about that as well. But we have something else. And I know it's an overstated term, but we got dogs, bro. We've got dogs. And I don't think it's a term that you understand unless you really like played the game of basketball. Where there are some dudes who you get on the court with and you just look at their body language and you just say, "Ah, man, he gonna be. I'm gonna have to cover for this dude. He looks kind of scared, maybe a little intimidated, maybe a little lazy and lackluster, like he's really not invested in winning this game or competing from possession to possession." Those are the guys you're just like, ah, damn. You don't really want to play with those guys. They're just frustrating because their guy's going to score easy. They're not going to get back on defense. They're not going to box out and get the necessary rebound, right? Like they're not going to do the little things to help you win. And while you're competing, you got this guy who's kind of like, a hole in the ship, just letting water in, and you just like, damn, yo, you sinking us, bro. You sinking us. But then sometimes you get with dudes on your squad that love to compete, in every single way, in every single possession. They want to win containing the man on the perimeter. They want to win closing out to stop a shot. They want to win sliding their feet to cut off their man from driving to the basket. They want to win boxing out and getting the rebound. They want to win just keeping you from getting the rebound. They want to win in every single possible way in competing in the game of basketball. That's the dog. Every time you throw that stick out in front of it, it takes off. Every time you put that little rope toy in front of it, it grabs it. Every single time that you are in a moment to try to compete, to win any form of competition, they are right there with you. And we got a team full of them. And it's contagious. It's so contagious that guys like Javonte Green have been moved up the depth chart. Paul Reed, we're going to talk about Paul Reed. Don't worry. Don't worry. These guys have been moved up the depth chart because their dogged competitiveness and skill and IQ and reliability and consistency has been setting the tone for these Detroit Pistons. We don't have a number one record in the Eastern Conference without a Javonte Green and Paul Reed and Dennis Jenkins, Ron Holland. We don't get here without them. Without them, we're probably somewhere around 5, 6. These guys change games for us. They shift momentum. They make big plays over and over and over and over and over again. They do so many things for this team that we're at a point. I'll give you an example. I'm going to give you an example. Trying to remember, was it when I was playing or when I was coaching? I think it was when I was playing. I played with this dude out of Texas called his name was Brandon Chris. Shout out to him. Brandon Chris. He was about 6'2", 6'3". Reminded me a lot of Wendell Moore on the Detroit Pistons right now, but just stocky, strong, explosive guard, very kind of muscular, very strong, like very strong base, legs, long wingspan, and just defended his ass off, could rebound, all of it. And I remember, when we first got there, I'm coming into the open gym, I'm, eh, 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 you know, hitting my threes, doing my thing, little cross, coming in real confident, right? Had my game tight. And we had other dudes, high skill level players, guys who could get buckets, right? Um, had a dude from San Francisco, about 6'5", just lay. You know what I mean? We had another dude, Tim Harrison, out of uh, uh, Texas, 6'10", could play like a guard, dunk, threes, we like, all right, we out here, yo. We out here. We about to tear it up. We about to have a crazy season. We was mad confident, right? BC played so many more minutes than all of us. It's ridiculous. I mean, my boy Marshawn Landry, shout out to him out of Oak Grove, came in, windmills. Bow. We had dudes coming in, reverse dunks. I'm about 6'1", so I'm getting my Gaminy, get you a little Dennis Jenkins, like, yeah, you know what I mean? But the coach saw that amongst all this skill, the most important thing that we needed was somebody who could do the dirty work, somebody who could do the little things that other guys couldn't, wouldn't, didn't have the proclivity to do. Brandon Chris became our most important player. He played so many minutes that he would have to beg the coach to take him out of the game. He'd be running by the coach going, "Coach, coach, coach." The coach would be like, straight ignore him. He'd be looking around like, "I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I don't know what you want. You ain't coming out. He can guard 3 to 4 positions, snatch rebounds from over the rim. I mean, he was straight Javante Green, if I'm honest. There was no way he was coming out the game. No way. We got a whole squad full of those dudes. We've got a whole team full of those guys who just have no hesitation to dive on the floor, to rotate to the open man, to close out hard, to retreat and move their feet, to get back on defense, challenge shots at the rim, box out and rebound, offensively or defensively. They all want to dunk on you. Can't wait to get to the cup. They're going to play you physical. They got a high motor, intensity. They love to compete. And it's infectious because guys, like I always said, remember I told y'all when Cade Cunningham first got into the NBA, I said he can go one of two directions. He has the physical ability. He has the physical abilities to be a really good defender. But he can go either way, either direction. There's a lot of players who can go either direction. I can be a good defender today. I can be terrible defender tomorrow. I can be locked in today. I can be totally disinterested tomorrow. There's a lot of guys like that, especially guys who have a larger offensive role. Putting these dogs around Cade Cunningham, around Jaden Ivey, around Jalen Duren, around Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson is so important because those are guys who can go either way, which is why many times I say I don't like having more than two of them on the court at the same time, which is why I also don't really like Duncan Robinson in the starting lineup because we got Cade, Duncan Robinson, and Jalen Duren. Ooh, you better have some ridiculous defenders out there. It better be Asar and Stu. Otherwise, that starting defense is not going to be very strong. The Detroit Pistons, ironically, with the injuries, have created more and more space for probably the guys who embody Detroit basketball more than anyone else. Namely, speaking of Javante Green, Paul Reed, and I'd even throw in Dennis Jenkins. But for sure, Paul Reed and Javante Green. Those two, by far, exemplify Detroit basketball. Everything that we want in our culture. All those attributes that I listed a moment ago. Those guys have in spades. They've got everybody beat. Because it's not just that they play hard. It's not just that they're rugged and tough and they're going to play with a high motor and intensity. They also play very smart. You know, you probably noticed Javante Green and Paul Reed ain't been in foul trouble ever. Didn't matter if they were starting. Didn't matter if they were coming off the bench. Didn't matter if they were getting big minutes, small minutes. They don't pick up bad fouls. They are playing defense with their head as well as their heart, as well as their feet. And they're in position play after play after play after play. Many times the big play that they're making started with seeing the play develop, moving their feet to get into position. And because they beat everyone to that spot, they're already primed for the steal, deflection, the block, the rebound. And now we're off in transition, creating opportunities for guys like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Sar Thompson, right? Guys who, if we're honest, need the ability to get easy baskets in order to really get themselves going. They really do. Now I want to dive into some of my notes here. There's so much to talk about. This was a really, really good game. Um, we shot lights out. Knicks have been struggling with their defense. I got a chance to listen to some Knicks podcasts last night just to see what they were saying, and they were very, reticent about they are questioning this season. The level of defense that the Knicks have been playing has just been abhorrent. They have been absolutely atrocious at times on defense, and you could kind of see it. The way that the Pistons were able to get loose in this game um, was something that we normally don't get. Most teams know if you defend us at a high level, you can stymie our offense. That's just kind of the reality of it. It's not a knock. It's just an acknowledgement. And so Portland and Miami and teams that can play really good defense, Dallas, especially when they got AD back with Coop and that squad, right? There's a lot of teams that realize, look, we just have to play great defense, and we were going to put ourselves in an opportunity to win this game. And if we got guys who can make shots, we can do it. Because the Pistons have a hard time taking care of the ball. We do. Cade had two really ugly, atrocious first half turnovers with just the laziest pass of life. I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, bro, they tell you not to pass the ball like that in middle school. I'm 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 standing up tall, one-handed, didn't even fully look at the man he was passing. And I get it. When you have the ball in your hands that much, you make a million passes throughout the course of a season. So it's easy to lose focus. Um, But that's also why I think Cade Cunningham needs another ball handler next to him rather than just a shooter. I'd rather have Ivy. I'd rather have even Dennis Jenkins at this point next to Cade Cunningham in that starting lineup because he needs another ball handler. He is at his best when he has another guy who can initiate offense instead of him doing it every single time. Uh, but I'm going to get into more of that later. Let me just say this. Uh, One of the first points that I had to point out, I think I mentioned it a moment ago, is that our three-point shooting showed up at the beginning of the game. And that's really important because if it doesn't, Jalen Brunson and the Knicks offense did show up in that first quarter. If we don't keep pace, if we don't hit those threes, very easily we could have been playing from behind by 6, 7, 8 points. Real quick. Real quick. The other thing that I want to point out from the very beginning is Paul Reed on the boards is big time. He has a quickness to him that he plays with. Kind of reminds me of a almost a Dennis Rodman, if I'm honest. He reminds me of Dennis Rodman in his quickness to the ball. He always seems to be moving his feet and he reacts and responds so well to wherever the ball is, where it's going, or how the play is developing. He's just always right there in position. He's always right there in position. And he was one of Cade Cunningham's favorite targets in that first quarter because Paul Reed would just rotate every single time. Okay, you're driving. I'm rotating off the ball here, diving down to the dunker spot, cutting through to the other side. Right? He sees how his defender is moving. He moves away from his defender into space. He's constantly shifting and adjusting himself. That he's always an option. And Cade, being very unselfish, just finds him. Just finds it here. Keeps giving him the ball. And Paul Reed continues to just make good plays. And it's something that, man, I literally left that first half scratching my chin just like I am right now. Like, damn, does he deserve 18 to 20 minutes a game? Like I think he is another reason why I would fully embrace starting Isaiah Stewart over Tobias Harris because I know that I have Paul Reed to come off the bench as a center. If I know I have Paul Reed that I can depend upon, I'm talking about not just like depend upon a little bit, but I'm talking about like in the playoffs. I could bet on that guy showing up. In the playoffs, I could bet on that guy playing at a high level. I can bet on him. Stu During is in the foul trouble. That's fine. I got P Reed. I got B Ball Paul. Speaking of dependability, yeah, I got 51 people in the chat and only 15 likes. Yo, come on, y'all. Hey, it's a small thing for you. Y'all know the drill. It's a small thing for you to hit the like button, but it's a big thing for the channel and the algorithm and all that. So please do me a favor, smash the like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And hey, become a member in 2026. Why not? I appreciate it. Helps out the channel, helps me stay consistent on this, but I do it for the love. I really do it. Really, really do it for the love. I love this community. I love this channel. I love kicking it with y'all, talking Pistons basketball. This is hella fun for me. Hella fun. Let me just say, B-Ball Paul, man, if he starts knocking down threes, he is going to carve out a bigger role. Absolutely carve it. If he starts hitting threes, which I know that he can. I know he can. We have already seen B-Ball Paul hitting threes. If B-Ball Paul starts knocking down threes regularly, bro, it's gonna be like Tobias who? And that's not even a knock to Tobias Harris. It's going to really be more of an indication that we just have so much depth on this team. We have crazy depth on this team. Like, when we think about, it was only a few games ago that Marcus Sasser had, what was it, 19 points and 18 points in back-to-back games. And we were like, oh, shoot, man, we got to get this dude more playing time. And then we randomly throw Dennis Jenkins out there. Randomly. He goes 6 of 6 or 7 of 7 in the first half. Ends up with 25 points. We can't even get to Marcus Sasser because this dude's balling out. And next thing you know, he's got 25 points, and now Dennis Jenkins is in the rotation. Right? We have got so many guys playing at such a high level that it has put JB Bickerstaff in, the unenviable position. It's what I call privilege problems. Privilege problems. You have so much depth that you have to sit there and scratch your head and figure out how you're going to get guys minutes. And now here comes B-Ball Paul, who's starting, who looks absolutely integral to our team's ability to win games and to continue on the stretch. He was a plus 22 in this game. The only guys who had better plus minuses: Asar Thompson, Cade Cunningham, Duncan Robinson. But here's the thing: when you look at a plus minus, you also have to factor in who they're playing with, because if you're playing with somebody who's impacting the game at a high level, it magnifies your plus minus. So really many times you're looking at the person who has the lowest plus minus within a collective group of players. That is an indication of maybe you're the weak link. I don't want to put in that term, but it was just to say, like, if you see a big discrepancy between everyone else and one guy, even if it's in the positive, it might be an indication that they're carrying him more than that guy's adding to them. But in this case, Cade Cunningham, Duncan Robinson, Isaiah Stewart, Paul Reed, Asar Thompson had an amazing plus-minus collection within that starting lineup. Plus 23 for Cade, plus 25 for Duncan Robinson, plus 22 for Paul Reed, plus 23 for Asar Thompson. And I'm going to get to Mr. Asar Thompson, because Asar Thompson, shoot, I might as well just get to him right now. He's the next one on my notes list right now. Might as well just get to him. I keep telling y'all, he is one of those players that is just absolutely teeming with potential. Absolutely, it's pouring out of his pores, his veins, his sweat. It's just potential, bro. Potential. You watch his athleticism, his body control, his footwork, his quickness. I mean, his absolutely absurd lightning quickness. Call it lightning quickness, because it is that first step. If he ever matches that athleticism, that first step, with his skill, confidence, control, and awareness, and these are all things that As an avid NBA watcher, analyzer, someone who loves the game, who's developed athletes, who has played, I would call it a high level because most people don't ever get a chance to play any level of college ball, or let alone travel around the world and play. Right? There are some things you can't teach: the size, the athleticism, the length, that feel that he has, that he came into the NBA with. That you really can't teach. That hand-eye coordination, you really can't teach it. It's just something that's inherent, that's built upon at a really young age. So even if you are teaching it, you only grow but so far by the time you get to the NBA. But then there are things that do improve over time, naturally, naturally. And that's things like shooting and confidence and body control and awareness, right? These are just things that improve just from being out there. Which is why I keep saying Ivy needs to be in that starting lineup, because the more he's in the starting lineup, the more he's going to be able to improve those necessary things that allow him to play at a high level. And I'm going to get to Ivy next. But let me just continue to point out Asar Thompson's strengths that we saw in this game. His ability to attack the rim. Uh, Finally, not and I'm not gonna say finally because he's shown us this many times before. But when he is definitive about his movements, when he does not hesitate, when he's locked in and he gets that ball and he sees the runway and he immediately eats up that space, exploding into that gap. Because remember, guys are not closing out on him because apparently you can just lay off of him. Now, this is something that has to be understood, and I'm going to try to take a moment to explain it. I've done it before, but I'm going to do it right now. When here it go. About space. You can lay off of a guy who can't shoot threes when you know that he's not an explosive athlete. When you lay off of a guy who's an explosive athlete like Russell Westbrook, like DeMar DeRozan used to be, and they can eat up that space, what that means is that they can accelerate into that open space, that gap, almost like they're running at you in transition, full speed. And when you give someone those steps to get to full speed, you as a defender standing still, you really don't have a chance, because they're now able to make a move, whether it's the Euro step, whether it's just elevating and jumping over you like Asar did a few times. When you give them that space and that runway to build up momentum and you're at a standstill, you are at a clear, distinct disadvantage. You're not going to be able to move fast enough. You're not going to be able to adjust to what they do fast enough. And you give them the advantage. And so, as a defender, you actually have to make sure you close out on them to make sure that they don't have the ability to build up momentum, especially when they're an explosive athlete. Now, you're going to see this many times. It was almost like LeBron back in the day when he was a younger, even more explosive player, right? D Wade. These weren't guys hitting a bunch of threes, but you had to close out, because if you gave them space, they accelerated into that space. And with their footwork, their feel, their balance and coordination, they would just step around you. We used to call D Wade Flash because he had that little Euro, little quick 1-2, even though Oscar Robinson was doing what we call the Euro now, long before Europeans were doing it, and Manu Ginobili brought that over and all of a sudden we gave it to them. I digress. All it's to say is if you give someone that amount of space who knows what they're doing, you will give them the advantage every single time. And in this game, Asar Thompson took advantage of that almost every single time. And they were spectacular finishes, but finishes that we've seen before. But now he was stringing them together, which is something that I've been saying for a while now. They need to just give Asar Thompson a video of all his greatest finishes and scoring that he's done throughout his early career, and just let him see that every single day. Just show it to him on repeat over and over and over. We want you to see your highlights so you don't forget what you're capable of. The shots that he was missing in this game, I was applauding because I was like, those are all shots that I know you can make. Those are all shots that are within your bag. Those are all shots that I want you taking. Because I keep saying this, when Asar Thompson is aggressive offensively, this Pistons offense operates at a higher level. He has the ability to put a level of pressure defense. He has the ability to break down the defense and create for others. And because he's so selfless and he sees guys open, he tends to find guys who oftentimes have been getting ignored or forgotten about. Like how many times did he drive into the paint and he found Isaiah Stewart in the corner or Ron Holland in the weak side corner? Right? Like that ability to collapse the defense and then rotate and make a crisp pass so a guy can catch the ball and have a wide open look. That is a real skill. That's something that Ben Simmons used to do back then. I know he's a taboo name to use, right? But Asar Thompson, I wouldn't even compare them. They're just two different mentalities. But Ben Simmons used to be at a time. I think he was like number one or number two in terms of I forget how they name the metric, but it's creating the greatest amount of space on their assists. So in other words, when they pass you the ball, you have the greatest amount of space between you and the next defender. In other words, they create open looks. And they did so with their gravity. LeBron, I think, was number one. With their gravity, that the defense has to respond to them so much that it pulls defenders away from offensive players and allows them to pass the ball out to a wide open guy. And because they are so aware of the court and where everyone is, and they have such passing skill that they're able to move the ball. And when they pass it, it gets there in perfect timing, right in the numbers, catching the ball with the hands up, ready to shoot. And the next defender is 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 feet away. They're getting guys wide open looks. That's what Asar Thompson has been doing. That's what he has the ability to consistently do. But he has to be aggressive. He has to be aggressive. And in this game, he was. And some of it is due to his own work, his own awareness, his own determination and focus and growth. And some of it was also the New York Knicks defense was just, yeah, because, I'm an older guy myself, I'm on a basketball court, I'm the dude that needs to stretch for a whole game and warm up. I can't just get picked up as soon as I walk in the gym. Y'all go ahead. I'm gonna warm up. I ain't gonna tear my leg off and my shoulder out the socket trying to get out there without warming up. I'm older. I know better. And these Knicks, they're starting to look a little bit older. They're starting to look much older. If I'm honest with you, they don't have that pop anymore. OG Anunoby, he's a good defender, but he doesn't have that pop he used to have in Toronto. Mikal Bridges, good defender. Got a block on Asar. Played some good defense out there. He doesn't have that pop he used to have in Phoenix and in Brooklyn. It's something that we don't always factor in that the attrition of the NBA season that just wears on you, the marathon, 82 games plus playoffs, back to back nights, that wears on athletes. Your knees, your back, your hips, your shoulders, your ankles, these joints, these bones can only really withstand so much, which is why depth is so important. It's part of the reason why the Knicks had to get rid of Tom Thibodeau. They're like, look, you're going to wear our players out. And I know you don't mind, but we might be successful over a course of time. Then you keep wearing our guys out. Right? Derrick Rose is the epitome of that. But it's to say that we were able to be as successful partly because of our preparation and partly because the Knicks, I think they are, I'm not going to say they're over the hill, but they are at the peak of their hill. If they don't win a championship now, if I'm honest, this is what might uh, push the Knicks into going all in for Giannis, which is kind of scary. It's kind of scary. If I'm the Knicks and I see this game and I see Karl Anthony Towns and the way he played, but I've been telling y'all about Karl Anthony Towns. If I'm the Knicks, I'm like, call Milwaukee, call Milwaukee. What do they want? What do they want? We got to keep Brunson. Just about everyone else has to be on the table. We're not going to completely gut the team, but because to see this type of showing You have to look at yourself and say, Josh Hart cannot be that important to this team. That he goes out and then we fall and lose 4 out of our next 8 games. Yeah, the Knicks are floppers, and Karl Anthony Towns is doing some clown stuff. Man, he got frustrated, and something I loved seeing about Paul Reed and Isaiah Stewart is because they move their feet so well on defense that they frustrated the hell out of Towns. He's like, wait, so you have the length to contest my shots, physical strength and toughness to body me up, and you have the footwork to stay in front of me. So I can't bulldoze you. I can't just run past you. I can't just shoot over you. I don't have any other advantages. And because he didn't have any other advantages, because he didn't have necessarily the IQ to make the game simple for himself and just say, hey, let me do a little cross screen action and catch the ball on the block, right? Because he didn't have that ability to just figure out, oh, I need to get closer to the basket when I start with the ball so I can just shoot over the top instead of trying to attack from the perimeter. Because he didn't have that, he ended up just doing a bunch of dumb plays. And the Knicks got to be thinking, if we have to carry this guy into a series against the Pistons, it's going to be a 5-game series. It's going to be a 5-game. If you're second best offensive player, let me pull it up here, was only able to get 4 shots off, was only able to get 4 shots off, 6 points, was a minus 27. Karl Anthony Towns was a minus 27. That's what we did to him. 1 rebound, 1 assist, 6 turnovers. That's what we were able to do. That's what the Pistons were able to do to Karl Anthony Towns, all NBA front court center, right? Who's likely going to be an all-star this year. Crazy enough to say, probably over Duran. And that's a topic for another time. I'll probably talk about that another time. I'll make sure I put a note that what Jalen Duran needs to do to become an all-star this year. I'll put it down here because we need to talk about that. Jalen Duran, all-star with a question mark. What he needs to do. Because the reality is there's a lot of other guys. Paolo Banchero, right? You got Towns, you got Giannis, Jaylen Brown at the forward position, right? You got a lot of other guys who are going to be vying for those spots. And because we're so guard heavy in the East right now, playing at the top, I mean, you got Jalen Johnson too. There's just it's a lot of guys playing with Bam Adebayo might have something to say about it as well. Is Jalen Duran really a shoe-in for the All-Star game? It's something that we got to talk about. Now, I digress. I want to get back to this game real quick. Cade Cunningham, you know, I got to talk about Cade. I often don't talk about him enough. I don't, especially in a positive light. Because sometimes it's easy for me to just break down and see what a player has to develop and get better at. And it's easy for that to be misconstrued as talking negatively. But I also understand if you're only pointing at what you're not doing well, sometimes you can forget to point out what someone is doing well. Let me just say this game for sure. Cade Cunningham on both ends showed up. On both ends showed up for the first time. And I appreciate it greatly. Uh Leslie Willis, I am going to get to that question. I am going to get to that question. Remind me if I don't in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to get to that question. Um, Let me just say this. Well, first off, before I get to Cade, I got 64 people in the chat. Appreciate all of y'all. Y'all know the drill. Smash the like button for me. Remember, it's a small thing for you, but a big thing for the channel. I really appreciate the love from this community. Definitely hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And consider becoming a member in 2026. You know what I mean? It really helps out with the channel and its consistent production. Um, but with that said, Cade Cunningham is really perfecting his bully game. I mean, he's perfecting his bully game. A bully game is where you know that you have a distinct physical advantage over just about anyone that you're going to face. And you begin to pair that with footwork, the skill, your ball handling, your balance, your touch, your angles. Cade Cunningham is beginning to put all those things together. Where if you take away his 3-point shot, he can immediately put you into his bully game. Okay, well, I'm just going to use a quick first step, my length and athleticism, and this big ass shoulder right here to basically push you under the rim. And I'm going to finish right over the top because I'm about 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. Remember, OG Anunoby is 6'7", 6'7", right? Not the 6'7", He's 6'7" with about a 7'3" wingspan. Cade Cunningham made him look 100% look like a small guard. Made him look small. You see Cade Cunningham standing next to OG Anunoby, it was clear that Cade Cunningham was taller than him. So if we're looking at Cade Cunningham as a 6'8" guard, point forward, Grant Hill type. Imagine if Grant Hill had another 15 to 20 pounds on him early in his career. That is what we're talking about with Cade Cunningham. His ability to absolutely abuse OG Anunoby was so glaring. I think it's something that head coach Mike Brown is going to have to really take a look at. Who do we put on Cade Cunningham? OG Anunoby was supposed to be able to at least hold his own. I mean, there's really nobody else. Mikal Bridges is way too skinny. He's rail thin. But then you have OG Anunoby, who's literally 235 pounds, muscular, strong base, long wingspan, known to be a high-level defender, all NBA level defender. And he looked like he could do absolutely nothing with Cade Cunningham. Cade got absolutely wherever he wanted to get. Now, I don't know if OG, maybe he's dealing with some sort of, injury. Maybe he's dealing with some aches and something like that. Maybe something's going on at home and he's frustrated. He just wasn't locked in. Okay. But this game, Cade Cunningham ate against OG Anunoby. There was no resistance. And the reality was Cade Cunningham's, I call it that pop to your game, that quickness, that first step, that explosiveness in those small areas. Cade was able to pop right past OG Anunoby anytime he wanted. Little post up and boom, explode into a little spin baseline. Get his shoulder into him, boom, get past his hip, get to the other side of the rim for the finish. Just whenever he wanted to. And so OG Anunoby was constantly behind whatever Cade was doing. It became clear OG Anunoby may not even be an option to guard Cade Cunningham. And if he's not, I mean, Josh Hart is going to be a little bit more tougher. He's going to have a little bit more quickness, but he's 6'5". So you're losing 2 inches and wingspan. Though I would say Josh Hart is a really crafty defender, Javonte Green-esque. So maybe he can do a little bit more. But if OG Anunoby can't do anything with him, and he had the worst plus minus on this team, minus 31, despite, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, and 1 block. He was a minus 31. When OG Anunoby was on the court, the Knicks were at their worst. I mean, a part of it is also who he's playing with, but you see the point. If you're going to be a minus 31, what does that mean for the playoffs? Remember, no Jalen Duren. No Jalen Duren. Now, let me get to the rest of this. Cade Cunningham also did a great job of knocking down his threes, and I keep telling y'all, man, if his threes round out back into form and they average out to the level of 3-point shooter, I know that he is. And I say that I know that he is because there's certain things about someone's form and the fluidity in which they shoot the ball that give you a high level of confidence that they should be able to be a good shooter in the NBA. Cade Cunningham's jump shot has always looked fluid and smooth, confident, mechanically doing all the things. I appreciate that stat, Devereaux87. He's at 40% on the last 10 games. He's at 40%. Cade Cunningham shooting 40% from the three-point line is pretty much curtains for the rest of the league. Okay, well, now you can officially not do anything with this dude. Anyone strong enough is going to be too slow. Anyone tall enough isn't going to be quick enough. Anyone outside of maybe Asar Thompson, which is crazy, right? Or maybe Wemby. Maybe Wemby could do something with him. Outside of those guys, you really don't have anything to throw at him. You really don't. And now that he's hitting threes, it's just like, all right, well, fuck it. You know, it's you. You got it. You got it, bro. You got it. It's almost like SGA in his bag. All right, bro. We don't do what you do. We're going to focus on other things that we can have more control over. Nikola Jokic, right? He's getting to that. If he's knocking down 40% from his threes, the rest is just, I mean, as they say, it's history. It don't matter anymore. It don't really matter. It doesn't really matter. The guy that can guard that isn't alive, isn't playing in the NBA any longer. You know, you would need Dennis Rodman prime. You would need, uh, I don't know, Ron Artest prime. You know, you would need, I can't even think of the guys who could be strong enough, long enough, athletic enough, big enough, quick enough, high enough of an IQ to do all the things to slow down a Cade Cunningham. He is trending towards that MVP year. He just is. And if they end up with the number one seed, not just in the East, but in the league, which is not far fetched. Remember, after losing to Miami on New Year's Day, I believe it was, uh, I said, man, we might be 0-3 to start the year because we got Cleveland and New York on back to back. And here we go, 2-0, and knock out both of those teams. So now all of a sudden, we got to start rethinking what this month is going to look like. And I'm going to get into uh, our upcoming schedule for this month because it is a pretty tough schedule. We do contenders, you know, hopeful playoff, contenders, hopeful playoff teams, contenders, and it's like this the whole rest of the way. And so as a result, there's going to be plenty of trap games. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for us to take our eye off the prize. Plenty of opportunities for us to not be focused in, and team have a chance to jump on us. But I'm going to talk also why I think that we're going to be fine because of the dogs. Because of the dogs. Guys like Paul Reed and Javonte Green and Dennis Jenkins, those guys aren't going to allow us to fall off. Because let me be frank with you. The NBA is a business. We know that. But let me drop something to you that you might want to consider. Is that players also understand the benefit of playing on a winning team. They understand. Javonte Green understands that he's in a contract year. And that if he is a high level contributor to a championship contending playoff team, and he's knocking down his threes, he is going to be looking at not the 2 point, I'll round up $3 million contract. His next contract is going to have to look somewhere along the lines of 6 million, 8 million a year, which he may end up pricing himself out of Detroit. But it's to say, this is a career moment. He might get his biggest contract yet of his career on the back end of this season. He's aware of that. Paul Reed, his contract for next year is 5 million, 5.6 million, is not guaranteed. Is not guaranteed. This is the business side of it. These guys are playing for their careers. They're playing not just to stick in the NBA, not just to compete, but also thinking about I have a limited window to maximize my athletic potential in this sport of basketball. By 36, everyone's pretty much out the door, except for the LeBrons or Kareem. All right. So Javante Green knows that he's 32 years old, and his window is only about this much more. And then you got to be a regular Joe. You got to do a podcast. You're gonna have to invest in some real estate, open up a couple businesses, and you got to make that thing work for the next 40 to 50 years of your life, 60, 70 years of your life. Guys understand this. They understand this. Those guys, not just with something to prove, but also something to play for every single night. Those guys aren't going to let us just fall by the wayside in some of these trap games. Because the next game that we got is against the Chicago Bulls. It's a team that's given us some competition. And they're going to be itching for an opportunity to prove something, show something. If I'm honest with you, I think that they're a better team without Josh Giddey because they're a better defensive team. Trey Jones and Kobe White and Io DeSumo and those guys, they just get after it a little bit more. They got a little bit more dog in them without Josh Giddey at the helm. They're going to come at us. Remember, we're the ones with the target now. We're the ones with the target. We're the ones that everyone's looking at saying, yo, let's prove something against them. Let's prove that we belong. Even if they just keep it a close game, it's a win for them. If they lose by only a little bit, it's a big deal for them. So they're going to give us their best shot. We have to anticipate that. And so when we look at a team like these Detroit Pistons, guys like Paul Reed, Javante Green become absolutely invaluable to us. Dennis Jenkins, Marcus Sasser, absolutely invaluable. Now let me get to the rest of my notes here because there's plenty to talk about in this game. Kate Cunningham also saw him doing a much better job on defense, and I want to point that out because last game I had to get on his top. I had to get on his ass about that. Your defense last game against Cleveland was just atrocious. Uh, you were letting guys blow by you, losing track of your man, no communication. You weren't rotating to the open shooter. It was just so much. I was like, bro, where are you at? This game, not only was Cade Cunningham containing his man, not only was he digging down as the help defender. Digging down is when the ball who has the ball. When you're on defense and the player with the ball is being guarded by your teammate, and he begins to drive into the gap where you are the next defender over. Your job as the next defender over is to give a hedge. That means you either step in front to help your teammate contain the guy driving to the basket, or you reach in and try to deflect the ball, right? That's what it means to dig as a help defender. When you dig, it stymies the offensive player and allows your teammate who's guarding them an opportunity to recover and cut them off. If all is timed well, a short dig gives your teammate the opportunity to cut them off, and then you have to recover because likely what happens is that offensive player who has the ball that you just help stop is going to pass it to your man. So you got to be able to help and recover, right? Basic fundamental defensive basketball. This is commonplace. This is 101. Help and recover, right? Dig, sprint back out, and close out. Last game, Cade Cunningham was watching that offensive player drive right to the rim. Might as well have been having, eating popcorn and sipping a Slurpee with a side of nachos, right? Could have just had a seat in the stands. The way he just watched his teammate get beat and Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, whoever it was, get all the way to the cup, get all the way to the basket. No resistance, no help. This game, not only was Cade Cunningham helping, but he was also directing guys. And that's what I keep saying about Cade. He can go either way. He's a smart player, very capable player. But his meter, in terms of being locked in on the defensive end, can go from one side to the next. You look amazing, you look terrible. In this game, he looked amazing. The block on Deuce McBride was game changing. It was momentum shifting. It was deflating for the New York Knicks. It sent a message. It was like, not only are we beating you, but we're here to dominate you. We're here to embarrass you. That was an embarrassing moment for the Knicks. But not only was Cade making those plays, he was also just making the right plays. Closing out on a rotation, right? Communicating to his teammate, I've got this guy. Even as far, I think he like pushed Asar Thompson towards who he wanted him to guard because he had picked up the guy that Asar Thompson was drifting towards. Sometimes we don't always see our teammate guarding someone and we just see an open guy and we go, oh, I got to make sure I cover this guy. That's where it's incumbent upon your teammate to be like, no, I'm already here. Go cover him over there, right? Because they're usually behind you somewhere. So it's important that they communicate with you. This is why communication is so important on defense. When Cade Cunningham is communicating on the back end, that increases the overall defensive efficiency. That's the difference between covering a shooter, covering a Mikal Bridges, forcing them to put the ball on the ground, versus leaving what's his name from the Cavaliers, Sam Merrill, wide open for a wide open three. That's what was happening against Cleveland. No communication. One of the best three-point shooters in the NBA left wide open 3-4 times throughout the game, which should never happen. In this game, we communicated extremely well, rotated, and we were able to cut that off. Let me get to the rest of this. The bench unit was absolutely incredible. They took control of the game every single time they came in the game. Every single time they rotated in Javonte, Dennis, Ron, Ivy. We're going to talk about Ivy. Keep telling y'all about Ivy. Every single time that they came in the game, they took control of the game. The defensive pressure, getting out in transition, rebounding, swarming, getting all the 50-50 loose balls. And Javonte Green is a linchpin for that unit. He's a linchpin for that unit, meaning that he is someone who leads that unit in making those plays. Dennis Jenkins also, but Javonte is just a little bit more. He's a little bit more. He almost got that little unk energy. He got that young unk energy. He's got that. He's got that. Let me show you how this is done, youngster. Let me show you how this is done. He could have gotten to the free throw line far more times than he actually did. Actually, only got there once. Probably should have been there at least 3-4 times. When he was going to dunk on Karl-Anthony Towns, he got fouled. When he went for the layup in transition, I think it was on Mikal Bridges, he got fouled. He got pushed a little bit on the side. He got hit on the arm. Right? Javonte doesn't get nearly the amount of respect from the referees that he should. But the reality is Javonte Green had a hell of a game. 12 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, only 1 foul in 29 minutes. Only 1 foul in 29 minutes. Javonte Green, it's a real conversation. I might have to jump back on with my partners over at Resball TV. Shout out to their podcast. Look it up at Resball Pod, but Resball TV. They have some really good analysis. They get into the numbers. They get into the analytics. They have some really good stuff over there. You know, when we talked about Javonte Green, at first they were like, he's playing too many minutes, you know. And I was like, but there's something about this dude. There's something about him. There's something about this guy. And the more that I have watched Javante Green, the more I'm looking at a guy who reminds me of Josh Hart, who reminds me of Bruce Brown when he played for the Denver Nuggets the first time when they won a championship. The guy who plays far bigger than they really are, who can make so many different plays, right? The whole jack of all trades, right, is a master of none, but many times is better than the master of one, right? The whole saying. I'm gonna get that memorized one of these days. But he's a jack of all trades. He does so many things well that he is able to contribute constantly across the board. He can fill in the holes on a team's roster in so many ways, whether it's a defender, on ball defender, help team defender, rebounder, whether it's hustle guy, whether it's knocking down threes, attacking straight line drives, getting offensive rebounds, dunker spot, moving without the ball, uh, able to get to the free throw line, gets out in transition. He's great with transition defense. He's the first one back. He's a communicator. He does so many things well. He brings a team together. These are the types of guys, they're like the Alex Carusos. Javante Green is one of those guys that I guarantee you a championship contending team is going to be like, we need him. We need we need him. We need Javante Green. That's why he's going to get 8 to 10 million next year. Especially if he's knocking down threes. If he continues to knock down threes at this rate. Look, I want to quickly check. You know what? Somebody in the chat, because I got a dope chat. I got a dope chat. Somebody let me know what is Javante Green's 3-point shooting percentage for this season. And yes, as my man Cortez Whitlow just said, hit the like button for me. That's 67 people in the chat. Really appreciate that. Remember, as always, y'all know the drill. It's a small thing for you, but a big thing for the channel. You can really help out this channel. If in no great particular way, then hitting the like button. And if you should choose to do so, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. This is a dope community. Really appreciate y'all. And hey, it's 2026. Become a member. It really helps out with the channel. It's sustainability. Y'all are hella dope. I love doing this with y'all. This is super fun. Look, we're already over an hour, and it feels like it's only been 30 minutes for me, at least for me. Right? At least for me. But I appreciate y'all. Uh, let's continue with this conversation. Somebody let me know, what is Javante Green shooting 3-point percentage wise this season? He's 32.6. I'm curious what his shooting is over the last few games. Over the last few games. Because this game he shot 4 of 6. 4 of 6. And I feel like, okay, 36.5. Okay. I feel like that's who Javante Green is proving himself to be. Javante Green is proving himself, and some guys take longer to figure out their shot. Look, Sean Marion, Ron Artest, guys get better at shooting as their careers go on. If he continues to shoot at this rate, even if it's just league average, let's say he just buoys out. Oh, he's shooting 50% for January. Okay. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah, Javante had. Oh, that's right. No, he was a plus 12. You right. You right. Thank you, bro. Thank you. See, that's why I love my chat. I love my chat, y'all. I got one of the dopest chats. Our community is dope out here. Yo, he was a plus 12. He had 17 points on the night. Javante Green, if he continues to shoot at this rate, even if it's not 50%, Javante Green is going to become probably not just in our top 8 of the rotation, but he's going to push some guys out of the rotation. Last 5 games, 66%, 50%, 50%, 25%, 50%. Wow. Wow. Intermittent, yo, production, yo, the stats. My chat. See, I was going to take a moment to try to look it up myself. I got community, right? It's not all on me. I got community. Glad I stepped back and let y'all step in. Appreciate that. We're gonna have to start really talking about this rotation. Duran is gonna start. That's gonna bring B-ball Paul to the bench. B-ball Paul is on the bench. We've got to play him. And the best way to make minutes for that is keeping Isaiah Stewart in the starting lineup, I think. Now, I've often said this. There are many paths to the road to success. Many paths. Many. And I'm so grateful. JB Bickerstaff proves me wrong all the time. I feel like every single time I suggest that we sit Cade for some strategic advantage to develop the bench a little bit more, give him a rest, and allow other things to improve. And I, I don't feel like I'm ever wrong about that suggestion. It's just JB Bickerstaff chooses a different route, and it always works. It always works. And I'm just sitting there, just like, all right, well, shit. I mean, that's why you the head coach of the Detroit Pistons, and I have a channel. I'm doing a YouTube channel, and you're right there on the court. That's why. That's the difference, because the decisions that you're making, right, and also the position. We also keep in mind he's been in position, right. His dad was a coach in the NBA for a long time. He grew up under that tutelage, observing and watching, and had the connections. Granted, I think it's paid off. People get all bent out of shape about this. What do you call it? Where a parent gives their kid an advantage. Look, parents are supposed to give their kids advantages. Look, if I am into, let's say, doing YouTube channels and podcasts, and my daughter one day goes like, "Daddy, I want to do that too." Guess what I'm gonna do? You gonna see my daughter on my channel. Hell the freak, yeah. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm daddy. I'm daddy. Now, if she goes, I want to become a dancer, well, I'm not a dancer, right? I'm not a ballerina. So I can't really open up doors. I might get you some lessons. That's the best I can do, right? You're going to have to carve out your own road because you're taking a different path. But if she wants to do things that I've already created inroads for, best believe nepotism, right? Facts. It's not a bad, as long as the person is working their ass off and proving that they deserve the opportunity. If they're genuinely passionate about it, genuinely passionate about it, and they're willing to work hard, give them the opportunity. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. We all got to where we are today because somebody somewhere along the way, at many different points, created opportunities for us, even if it was directly or indirectly. JB Bickerstaff has made the most of his opportunities to become a head coach in the NBA, and he has been masterful. Masterful. The buttons he presses, his way of communicating, his connection with his players. I don't think he takes it for granted, right? I think he's seen the landscape, especially for black coaches. Let me just be honest, right? Let me just be honest about it. Many times, last hired, first fired. Easy scapegoat. Remember when they scapegoated JB Bickerstaff in Cleveland? Tried to blame him for why they couldn't get out the second round of the playoffs. They weren't in the playoffs when he got there. He gets them in the playoffs. And then they get to the second round multiple years back to back. And then now there's something wrong with him because they couldn't go further despite having major injuries to two out of their top four players. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley. Each of those years, at least one or two of those guys was down for almost the entire second round series. You're not going to advance with major injuries. You're not. That's why they say it takes a lot of luck to win a championship. And that's also why I told you I was going to get to this topic. I don't know if you're there. I forgot. I think it was Leslie Willis asked the question about contending. I can't find it. Maybe y'all can find it. It's a question that she asked, I believe, around contending. I think we are a championship contender. Can I say that? Can I just be straight up about that? I think we 100% are championship contenders. 100%. And y'all wonder why I'm on this team's ass when they're not doing the little things. It's not because I'm hating on them. I don't like them. It's because I see it. I see it, bro. And those little things can be the difference. It can be the difference between getting the team out of there in 6 instead of 7 games. It can be the difference between winning a game 2 or a game 3 that shifts the series to being up 2-1 versus down 1-2. Right? These things make a difference. Communication on defense, boxing out, securing the boards. Remember, we don't have a big, monstrous 7-foot interior player that we go, oh, that guy can secure the rebounds. Everyone else can just take off and transition. We don't have that guy. Duren is 6'10". Maybe with the right pair of shoes, can get close to 6'11", but he's not 6'11". He's definitely not 7 feet. Isaiah Stewart is 6'7". Do y'all realize that? Paul Reed is 6'9". We're not a big interior team. We play physical, we play tough. But that doesn't just automatically mean that you're going to get all the rebounds. Yeah, Kobe said it, attention to detail. It's the little things. By the time you get to the NBA finals, it's your ability to have perfected the little things. But as I also said, there are certain things that this team is doing that's just so much greater than their inability to perfect those details. And so it's a balance between not leaning on that, not depending upon that, and at the same time ensuring that you are still growing in those areas you need to progress. Leslie Willis says, Ross, who is the most important player on our team besides Cunningham? I need to know your opinion on this. Asar Thompson. Without hesitation. Without hesitation. We don't have another player who can do what he does. What he does on the defensive end. Asar Thompson is to defense what Cade Cunningham is to our offense. His ability to be at the point of attack, protect the rim, rebound, get deflections, steals, on the ball, off the ball, roam as a help defender, cover ground. The only thing left for him to do is communicate, to be that vocal leader on the defensive end. But he's still growing, 22 years old. He's still young. Asar Thompson is by far the second most important player on this team. I'm not even gonna hold you. We can get by without Stu. We can get by without Stu. Paul Reed, Jalen Duren, we'll figure it out. We can get by without Duren as we are. Shoot, we've even gotten by without Cade. But you let Asar Thompson go down for a few games. I mean, knock on wood, injuries happen. Knock on wood, right? We don't want it to happen. But by far, if Asar Thompson gets injured, this team is going to feel it. He covers for Cade. He covers for Duncan. He covers for Duren. He covers a lot for this team. A lot. Remember I said Jalen Duren, he is a big man who is able to look good on defense because Asar Thompson is able to contain so well on that perimeter and slide around, move around. He buys Duren that extra second, that little split second. May not seem like a lot, but that extra second to rotate and be in position versus that second too late, and now you've picked up a foul. It has immense ramifications over the course of the game. That maintained verticality Jalen Duren does, whether he blocks a shot or not, versus picking up his first or second foul in the first quarter. impacts our fourth quarter. There are so many things that Asara Thompson does that will never get. I mean, he's a 6'8" Josh Hart with a 39-inch vertical and a lightning quick first step. That's what he is. His scoring many times really is just extra because we need him so much out. And the crazy part, he only played 19 minutes in this game. That's how good our bench was. That's what's so crazy about this team. And I think that's something I have to remind myself that as much as I might point out stuff that we have to improve, our transition defense, getting back, boxing out on rebounds, make sure we're consistently closing out and making rotations on the defensive end, especially from that starting lineup. Playing defense with our feet, not our hands, minimizing the turnovers. I can get to all that stuff, but the reality is we are so freaking deep and talented on defense with a bunch of dogs. Man, there's no dog pound bigger than the Detroit Pistons. There just isn't. And I love this team because that's how I love to play. I'm out here in New York right now, and that's why you see the different background, all that stuff. Um, got to a YMCA, got a chance to hoop for the first time out here, and it's always fun hooping for the first time in a new gym because folks don't know you, so they kind of see you walk in, okay, he about 6 feet, all right, he might be able to do something. He got the long arms, look like he might be a basketball player, okay. See him dribbling, people like, yeah, whatever, and then you just start hooping, and you start moving your feet, and you start showing them a little footwork, and you knock down that first jumper, and you get to the first lay, and they're like, oh. And then you got that move that you do, and then they go like, "Oh, okay, 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 all right. I see you over there. We see what time it is." That's always so much fun. That's always so much fun. But I'm in this game, and there's this one dude on my squad. I don't know his name. He was a dude about my age, but he just let his man go right past him in the ugliest, most atrocious way. Like he just like I don't know. He probably played a whole bunch of games. I don't want to get mad at him or nothing. But he just absolutely gave zero effort. Just let his guy drive right past him. And man, did that irk me. I mean, I don't know anybody in this gym, but I had to say something. I was like, bro, what are we doing? Come on, bro. Come on. And he knew what I meant. He knew it was no ill will. It was just we hooping. Very next play, he slides over. All of a sudden, he's like, nah, I got him. All of a sudden, he gets into it. I love competitive basketball. I love to compete. I love to get in it. I love when we got to lock up, when it gets intense. We got to play with that physical. I love that. That's what I grew up on. That's why I love this team. That's why I love this team. I was a kid. I used to play. I was 8th grade playing with grown adults. And I always remember because I had a late growth spurt. So I was like 5'1" on a good day. By my freshman year, I was like 5'3". All right. So I was small. And I'd play with these grown adults. I was quick. I was fast. I could shoot. And I talked a lot of trash. That probably cost me a little bit. But these grown adults, I'll never forget at Lanier Park, San Jose, California. Uh, we'll go to that park every single day. Um, this dude, Jimmy, had another friend, Brian. Brian and Jimmy, best of friends. And they were grown men, 30s, mid 30s, probably work construction, something like that. And they used to come out there, and I'd be waiting, practicing, working on my game. And I'd go out there, finally get on, um, and I'd have a fast break, or I'd be driving to the basket, and they would just shove my ass in the air, midair, right into a pole. Bah! The pole that holds up the hoop. It, ugh, man, you better not say nothing. You better not say nothing. You better not complain. You just gotta get up, call your foul, or keep it pushing. They had no problems. So I cut my teeth in basketball with just toughness and having to be a dog. Otherwise, you're not gonna get picked up. Gotta be a dog. For me, I can't root for people who are not a dog. If you're not a dog, I can care less. If you ain't got that competitive streak in you, if you don't have that drive, that hunger to prove something to yourself, if you ain't got it, you ain't got me. I am not very interested in rooting for a guy who doesn't play with an intense level of determination. So to have a whole squad full of those dudes, Asar, Paul Reed, Isaiah Stewart, Kay Cunningham, Ron Holland, Javante Green, Jaden Ivey, Dennis Jenkins, Marcus Sasser, Tolu Smith, Chaz and it, right? To have a whole squad full of those dudes. Oh my God. I'm loving this season. And maybe we need to talk more about that. Maybe we need to actually break down and start articulating that term being a dog because, I think it gets overlooked. Because you know who people wish had that dog in them? Zach LaVine. If Zach LaVine had dog in him, he's probably a Hall of Famer. Perennial All-Star. If Zach LaVine had that dog in him, he's probably Kobe Bryant. I'm gonna be honest. Talent-wise, Zach LaVine is 6'6", 6'7", 40-inch vertical, slam dunk champion. No dog in him. Devereaux said, would I classify LeBron as a dog? Yes. Yes. LeBron is I'll tell you what LeBron is. LeBron is a general of the dog pound. He is a general. He is a general. He is the dog. Yes, he's a big dog. Yeah, he's strong. He does his thing. He dominant. But he thinks the game. Isaiah Thomas, Zeke, right? The original bad boy leader, said it himself. LeBron James is an absolute genius. He is a phenom. He is a what do they call it? Like you have like a pianist who just naturally picks it up. A savant. LeBron is a savant. I got a chance. I was at a coaching clinic in Atlanta in my early coaching career. No, it was like mid to late part of my coaching career. Uh, and I'm at this coaching camp. They were introducing better basketballs, read and react offense. It was at the beginning of it. Now everybody does read and react. But they were introducing it. He had all these NBA coaches. Corliss Williamson was down there, and a bunch of others, and Kansas had some assistants there. And it was a dope clinic. And LeBron James, high school coach, middle school and high school coach, the guy he used to stay with at times, best friends with his son, was there, and I got a chance to talk to him. And I started asking him about LeBron, like what made LeBron so special? What was it about him? And he's just like, LeBron got it at a young age. He just got it. He just understood what this was about. He understood he needed his teammates. He understood that he had the ability to make them better. He understood how to lead them. He understood what it meant to be a teammate, not just a great individual player. He knew when to turn it on. He knew when to get other guys the ball. He knew how he genuinely not just knew, he understood and embraced and enjoyed rooting for his teammates. Right? He loved it when his teammates were playing at a high level. This is what his coach is telling me. So you can imagine by the time he gets to the NBA, he's just being himself on top of processing. Something that Isaiah Thomas said, he said, LeBron James never had a Dean Smith. He never had these Hall of Fame coaches like Phil Jackson. He didn't have these guys to teach him the game at a young age. Shout out to the coaches who did teach him the game at a young age, but some of this is also just processing. He just understood it. And so when I look at LeBron James as a dog, to answer the question, he's a dog that is probably the most dangerous because he's so measured. He's so measured. When he takes a bite out of you, oh, you feel it. And the Pistons know. I mean, what he had 25 points in the last, some odd minute, right? Like he had those dominant stretches, you know, did it to Boston, did it to, the Pistons. It's just what he does. By the time he takes a bite out of you, that thing is so measured. He bit you just where you can no longer recover, and it's a wrap. He's not just biting you all the time. Some guys are just constantly competing, and other guys, they're more exacting with their competitiveness. Do I think Cade Cunningham has the killer instinct? Yes. I just don't think that. I think Cade. Okay, so this is what somebody said. This is an interesting topic. I like interacting with the chat. This is an interactive live. Um, I don't always get to everything. If you want to stop me and I'm not catching your questions, just shoot me a super chat. $1.99 or something like that. And it'll pop up. It'll highlight itself. Or if you become a member, it'll like highlight in the chat and it'll pop up and then it'll catch my eye. Um, Speaking of which, Cortez Whitlow, one of my members, asked, "So do we need a trade or we good as is?" I It depends upon what the trade is. We could use more front court length, and I think Karis LeVert is a casualty of our depth naturally. Um, but it's got to be the right guy. It has to be the right guy, and I am not. Um, I am not. I am not going to sacrifice anybody on this roster, even Karis LeVert, for a guy who's not a dog, who's not a competitor, who doesn't fit this culture. I would protect that more than anything because that is our greatest strength. That is our greatest strength. Um, and that means more than anything else anyone else is going to bring in. Let me just say, to answer the question, Cade Cunningham. So I was listening to this one podcaster, and he was saying by year 5, you know who a player is. You know what they are and what they're not. They'll improve, but they're not going to change into something else. I think we know right now that Cade Cunningham needs another ball handler next to him. Cade Cunningham is best when he's off ball. Cade Cunningham needs someone else to initiate offense. Because when he's handling the ball too much, he becomes very turnover prone. And that is going to bite us in the ass in the finals and in the playoffs. It's going to cost us. And I keep telling y'all, the window of opportunity to win the championship, you never know how big it is. You never know. You never know. You never quite know you're there until you're there. And then you never know how long it's going to last for. If you're lucky, everything goes right. God willing, inshallah, you might get a run. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Right? That's about the longest of a run the majority of these dynasties will ever get. And when I say a dynasty, I mean like the Detroit Pistons with Chauncey and Rip and Tayshaun and Big Ben and Rasheed. They were really good for about 4 years, 3, 4 years. They got to the finals twice. They only won it once, but they were a contender for about 4. Do y'all get the math? Denver's been a contender. They've got 1. Giannis and the Bucks had a stretch with Drew and Chris Middleton and Brooke Lopez, Bobby Portis, and them, Pat Connaughton. They had a stretch about 4 or 5 years where they were contenders. They only got 1. Right? It's hard to get one. So when you find yourself in that, you don't want to leverage your whole future, right? That's why you want to hang on to guys like Ivy. You want to retain as much of your core as possible. But you also can't take it for granted. You can't take it for granted. You just can't. You gotta make the most of the opportunity because you never know when your one is gonna be. Detroit won its one on the front end. They traded for Rasheed Wallace, and they were there. Boom, won a championship. Boom, got back the next year, lost to the Spurs and Tim Duncan. Shout out to Timmy. Right. Didn't get back. These things are not guaranteed. These things are not guaranteed. We have to lock this in. I think, look, inevitably, I think Duncan Robinson loses that starting position to Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey showed us in this game, and I didn't get a chance to really talk about him. I probably need to a little bit more. This is one of his best games. 16 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, only 1 turnover. He was a net zero, but he got more minutes with different lineups and stuff like that. Played 22 minutes off the bench. 1 of 2 from the 3-point line, 6 of 10 from the field, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. The reality is he's just better than Duncan Robinson. He's just better. He does more. I don't know when it's going to happen. If Jaden Ivey doesn't get into the starting lineup before the trade deadline, I wouldn't be shocked if he's not traded. If he doesn't get into the starting lineup before the end of the season and he's not traded, it's going to be really interesting in the negotiations. It'll be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting. And I say interesting because it can go a lot of different ways. Jaden Ivey might harbor some resentment for not being put in the starting lineup. He might also recognize the financial ramifications of that. If you can't get into the starting lineup, you can't ask for 20 plus million, let alone 30 plus million that he was betting on. And he's going to feel some type of way because that sets the escalating contractual scale for the rest of your career. That could be the difference between $50 to $100 million over the course of a career that you didn't make because of where you started in your first negotiations of that initial contract. That's a reality. At the same time, he's also not doing himself any favors coming back and not being 110% ready to contribute. That was the month of November and December. And I said, I don't know why he's coming back so early if he needs to be on a minutes restriction. If you need to be on a minutes restriction, then just sit, bro. Sit. Go down to the G League. Get your cardio up. You're there for cardio, get your cardio up there. All right, take your time. Come back when you're 100%. If you look at most veterans, they do not come back unless they're 110% ready. It's smart because you think you're sacrificing for the team, and then in negotiations, when the lawyers and the front office and the agents, and all of a sudden they're like, "Well, hey, look at this stretch." And you're like, "But I was sacrificed for the team." They're like, "Okay, but who that has those types of stats gets paid what you're asking for?" You bit yourself in the behind. It's happened many times to many of players. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I do believe Jaden Ivey should be in the starting lineup. I love his positional size at around 6'4", 6'5". He's built like a running back. Long arms, great athleticism. I was listening to Kings, another Detroit Pistons commentator. He has a channel. I forget his whole name. But I was listening to him, and he was saying that he thinks that Jaden Ivey is still hurt. I don't think that at all. I don't think this team would allow him to play hurt. He might have gotten dinged throughout the game or something like that, but they would not allow him to play hurt. There's no reason to. There's absolutely no reason to. One, because it's too much risk to a player that you value, that you drafted really high. And two, yeah, everything King. Go check out his channel. It's pretty cool. I like his old background music thing. But it's like you got Marcus Sasser in the wings, you got Dennis Jenkins, you got too many other guys who can use minutes and opportunities. And there's just very little reason to play Jaden Ivey hurt, especially if it puts him at risk for aggravating, re-aggravating, or worsening an injury by playing on it. I don't think he's injured at all. I do think that Jaden Ivey just really wants to play, and I think he has that youthfulness that sometimes doesn't always know better, and you kind of get out ahead of yourself, and you didn't really take the time to methodically measure your move in terms of the fullness of the potential of that decision. All that to say is, I think he still deserves to start. Didn't do himself any favors with how he started off this season, but I do believe he deserves to be in that starting lineup. Okay. Um, yeah, yeah, everything King. He's dope. He's dope, man. He's dope. Along with what's his name? What's my other partner I love to watch? Shucks. Downtown Deuce. That's another dude. Really fun YouTube channel. Definitely go check them out. But as always, look, I gotta wrap this up. Damn, we've been on here for 100 minutes. Today was a lot of fun. Today was a lot of fun. Let me just say this. If you haven't already, smash the like button for me. Remember, it's a small thing for you, but a really big thing for the channel. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you're notified on my posts, on my short videos, surveys, stuff like that. And also when I go live, because it is an interactive chat. And it's 2026. Consider becoming a member. Um, I really appreciate this channel. I appreciate the community. I appreciate opportunity to just talk my shit and talk about Detroit Pistons basketball. But I also like to leave y'all with something. Um, it's just a little bit of something. Just a little bit of something. Always, not always, when you can, make the most of the moment. Be present. I know it's hard in this age. We all got our technology and devices, and I'm probably not doing myself any favors telling you to put away your device. But be present. When you have an opportunity, especially to spend time with people that you care about, do things that you really enjoy, make the most of the moment because it's not always guaranteed. My kid's getting older every day. She's growing so fast. And those moments to spend with her, those moments to spend with your loved ones, people that you care about, they're not guaranteed to always be there for whatever reason. For whatever reason. Travel, life change, work schedule, school, activities, extracurriculars, it there's always something pulling at you. If you have an opportunity to be there with someone, to be present with them, to spend quality time with them, do it. Put your phone down. Put the iPad away. Turn off the TV. You know, go take your kid out to the park if it's sunny enough, or go shoot some hoops at a gym. Go, if you're gonna take your significant other on a date, do a date where you can actually like talk. Give them eye contact. The opportunity to spend time with those you love and care about the most is not guaranteed. Make the most of it. Make the most of it. Don't take it for granted. Just like these Pistons can't take for granted being a championship contender. And we'll probably talk about that next time. Tomorrow morning, as always, 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time ish, because I'll be on that CP time. With that, I'm going to get at y'all. Y'all have an amazing day. Remember, live life to the fullest, love deeply, laugh hard as hell. And I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.